All right, Eddie.
All right, fellas.
How are you?
What's happening, Frankie?
What's up?
Everything's good.
All right, so we have Cara Alwill today.
Oh, yeah.
Cara Alwill Leyba, and she's an author, and she's coming with a new book. So I asked her what she would like to eat, and she loves our veggie squash. Okay, with black bean burger. Okay, so I'm preparing this, and I really want to do her book reading, so we should start talking about how we can prepare for it and how we're going to celebrate her new book.
That sounds
Right?
good. Sounds good, Larry.
All right.
Let's do this.
Let's meet her.
Hey everybody, it's Eddie Brill here, OG Talk Organic Grill. Another great episode. We have our dear friend Vlad Grinberg, the VG in the OG. And this is actually a second interview with our very
Second
good
time
friend.
is a charm, huh?
Yeah, well, 3 is a charm. So this one is our working our way to number 3. Actually, we had first started OG Talk. We used our friend's studio, and it was fantastic in a way, but it was, it wasn't as fantastic, and it wasn't inside this beautiful place. She's an influencer. She's brilliant. She likes plant-based food. We both share a love for cauliflower. And she's here right now, Cara Alwill Leyba.
And
Thanks,
she's
Cara.
on the book number 9, right?
Yes.
And Cara was our first guest. If it wouldn't be for her, we'd probably give up by now, huh?
Yeah, I gave up a long time ago. That's the way that works. So yes, your new book. You have a new book. Let's start with that. I wasn't going to. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I just finished writing it. It's
Yes.
called Girl on Fire. It's my 9th book. I have quite a journey in publishing. We can get into all that later. But this book is really just a manifesto for choosing yourself and realizing that you don't need to follow the rules to be successful, to create a life that you love. And I think, as a woman who has been in the space of personal development for a long time, I see so many women just waiting for somebody to give them permission or tell them it's okay to go pursue your dreams. So this book is really just like break the rules, burn the rule book. You don't need them. You don't need to follow anyone's advice. You don't need to listen to an expert to tell you that what you have is worth putting out into the world.
And it's almost like your autobiography. You
Yeah,
didn't
kind
care-
of.
I would think
Didn't care
that's.
for-
I would think that's why when you write a book, you would. I mean, it appears that way with all the books that you've written. As you've developed as a human, you start learning more things, and one begets the next thing.
Yeah.
What was the book before this?
It was called Like She Owns the Place.
Like She Owns
I think
the
we have
Place.
it up here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
we have it here.
Yeah.
And so, what's the difference now in your life when that book was happening to what's going on in your life now?
So I initially started my journey as a rejected self-published author, very proudly rejected self-published author. My first book that I wrote 7 years ago was rejected 19 times.
Wow.
And I got to a point where I was like, well, I don't want to let these random people determine my path in life. I know I'm meant to be an author and a writer and to tell stories, so I self-published. Fast forward a couple years later, I put out a book called Girl Code on my own, and that
Right.
took off.
Through the roof.
Yeah, it just somehow magically, divine timing, it took
And
off.
tell us about that book and what's that about for people who, the one person in the world who didn't buy it yet.
So that book is really geared toward women in business, specifically entrepreneurs. And it's a book that kind of, talks about the power of collaboration. I think we tend to compete with each other a lot in business, and this book is really about coming together as women and celebrating each other and realizing that we're stronger together. And that book, I guess it was a message that just needed to be heard, and I kind of feel like I was one of the earlier voices in the female-driven movement, especially now we kind of see girl power everywhere, and I'm happy about that, but I put that book out at a time where I think that message really needed to be shared. And it took off for whatever reason, and it sold, in the first year, I sold like 50,000 copies of that
Yeah,
book, and most
pretty
books
sweet.
sell maybe 3,000 copies in their lifetime, according to like statistics, so I was really proud of that. And then the publishers came knocking, of course, right?
Yes, of course.
And at the time, I was still kind of working through the need to be chosen, and I still really felt like I wanted to explore that fantasy and that dream, and I did, and it really just let me down. I had a good friend say one time, what happens when your dreams come true and you don't recognize them? And that was really where I found myself, and I was like, this is just not what I thought it would be. And I don't mean to bash them in any way, shape, or form. My publisher worked hard for me. They did what they could, but ultimately it wasn't what I expected.
But also in life, I think that sometimes when you get something you really want, there's a natural letdown because you get to that place, and it's very hard to just now take it to the next level without taking a few steps backwards, even emotionally.
Yeah, and I think we assume that that thing outside of us is going to bring us happiness, but we had it in us all along. And, you know, so...
Yes, Dorothy.
Yes, it's true. You
Yeah.
had the power all along. And when I wrote, like, She Owns the Place That, I wrote with my publisher. And, you know, I'm proud of the book, and I think it's actually not the best book, but the second best book that I've ever written. I think Girl on Fire is better. But that book, you know, I really poured my heart and soul into it. I was more obviously a developed writer at that point. But I was in a really dark place because I was really exploring, like, what part of me was still hanging on to this dream. And, like, now that I got that, I was unhappy and I was working through all of that.
Okay, so when a situation comes up where someone's in a dark place, now you can say, look, I was in a dark place.
Yeah.
And how is that? Because I know you have your podcast and millions of listeners, and you're an influencer for that way. When people are in a dark place, you probably can really help them even more because you've gone through that.
Yes, and I think it's so important to share those things. And I think a lot of people are afraid to be vulnerable. And I love being vulnerable. I love
the
sharing.
strength.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing is to talk about my failures, because I think that's what empowers people to realize that, you know, every success story is 10 years in the making, they say?
Yeah.
Sometimes more.
Yeah, Steve, I think it was Steve Martin said it took him 10 years to make it overnight,
Yeah.
which is interesting. And Vlad, you know, we were talking about a lot of this, like, you know, in our lives, situations like with the restaurant and different parts of our lives where, you know, you have to be vulnerable and have to search your own soul.
Yeah, and we all kind of hanging on to the idea that, oh, if I would only have an opportunity, or if I would be reposted by this famous person, or if I would be mentioned somewhere, or some celebrity would come to the restaurant, and then you realize it's just about you making opportunities available for you and doing stuff. You were talking about collaboration. Did you collaborate with anybody as a part of your
For this
team
book?
in the book?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I went back to self-publishing. So here I was again alone, figuring it out, where I feel most comfortable, oddly enough. And when I say alone, I don't mean without my community. And I think, Vlad, you do a great job at establishing a community and cultivating that community. And I think, to me, that's where real success lies. It's the relationships you have with
So
people.
tell me the name of this community. I see that you have like a book club now, right?
Oh, yeah. So I launched a book club on Facebook, just called The Champaign Diet is my brand, based on my
Right.
blog that I started 11 years ago, which is crazy. And it's not an actual blog about champagne, although it's more of a metaphor for celebrating and enjoying life. And I started the book club, and I said, you know, I really want this to be kind of like my street team, you know, my grassroots, kind of like DIY. I used to work in the music industry, and we always had street teams, and this is going to be my tribe, and I'm also going to provide a lot of value to them and thank them and do Q&As and live discussions and like give back to them. And to me, getting a mention on social media or in a blog or anywhere is so much more important when the person wanted to do it and they did it because they found your book and they loved it, or they came to your restaurant and they loved it, or they came to your stand-up show and they loved it, not because you paid a publicist to pitch them to get you that press.
And to prove how important her community is for her, I asked you, let's show your cover in a restaurant, let's show on our podcast. She said, no, it's only for my club first. They get it first. They helping me so much. They're my kind of folks. And I was so impressed.
Yeah, and that's how it's a give and take. You know, it's with every relationship. Every relationship evolves, whether it's for yourself or others. For me, you know, as a young man, when we were taught about we were taught from an insecure place how to be a man, and vulnerability wasn't an option. And as you get older, especially as a performer and artist, you find out that vulnerability is a strength. Yes. So you find other people that are like you, and that's how you grow and evolve from it. And speaking of evolving, our bodies have evolved in such a way because the three of us are plant-based people, and we're going to bring out food. There's my segue of the year. We want to bring out some food here because we know
never stops. Huh?
Yeah, we never stop bringing out amazing food on OG Talk. So Vlad told me some of your favorite dishes.
Veggie squash, huh?
Yes, I had to
Veggie
stop
squash.
myself from ordering it last night. I really wanted it, but I was like, I'm going to have it tomorrow.
So let's bring it out.
Let me bring some
Let's get the
food.
veggie squash. Now, what's to me, while he's bringing that out, an interesting thing about any author is European, other countries, international kind of fans. How is that working out for you? Because it's other languages, and And when people want to write to you and they write to you in French or they write to you in German, how do you respond?
I love it. I mean, it's the biggest like compliment that I can receive, and the biggest to me, you know, thinking about success. I spent a lot of time like kind of thinking about what success means for me. And I remember I used to think, oh, if I was a New York Times bestselling author, that would be success. And I really wanted that to happen with my last book. And it didn't happen. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. What matters is that my book is literally like transcending cultures and,
Yes.
you know, reaching a global audience. And not only has Girl Code been translated into now 7 languages, I think, but I actually found an underground translation. I don't know if I told you guys this last time we spoke, but I got a picture came across my Instagram of Girl Code in Iran.
Yes.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And it turns out that these women just translated it like underground and put it in all these libraries. And I have no idea how it happened. I don't make any money off it. I don't care. To me, it's just the fact that that book is now able to reach women that really, truly
And
need
imagine
that.
how revolutionary it is in those countries, right? The woman has to,
Yeah.
God forbid, right, to choose and do her own thing. And that's
Were you able to contact these folks at all?
Just the women, the
Right.
woman who translated it reached out and she was like, I hope that that's okay that I did that. I'm sorry. I said, no, I'm not
Oh,
upset
my
at all.
God.
Like, keep doing it and keep spreading the message. I'll give you my next book to translate, you know?
That's
So that's,
great.
I think that's to me is what feels successful. That feels like, you know, making an impact. That's the only thing that I want to do in this world.
Yeah, because I believe it's all inside of us, who we are and what kind of influence that we have on others is how we treat ourselves. You respect yourself, other people see that, they grow from that. And that's how I learn it from other comedians or other people or folks like both of you. Watch, you know, how dedicated you are to your craft or to the compassion you have for others, and that inspires me to be the same way.
And do what you really love, because you can't fake the funk, you know? You can't put out, if I were to like write a book that like someone
the
told me I should
second
write.
time we hear this week. You
What?
can fake the fun.
Can't
Yeah,
fake the funk.
I mean, you can't fake authenticity, right?
Right.
So like, you can't go the long haul if you don't really love what you're doing. You know, like if Vlad, if you didn't really love vegan
Oh,
food,
boy.
this place wouldn't exist.
I love the food, but I also love the people who come here. Like
And they
for
love
me,
you.
For me, it's like a big transformation. Yeah, and I love you, Rick, too. Right?
Our
Yeah.
friend Rick from St. Louis.
He's
I
our
want to bring this
producer
your
from
way.
St. Louis.
Oh, thanks. I think this.
Is that the
Oh,
squash
this
right
is your
there?
veggie squash.
Okay.
Okay, this is
Shows
masala
you-
ball.
That-
It's expected to be shared.
Oh, he always has
Yes.
a surprise.
What do you mean share? I just want one straw and the marsala. And what's this right here?
Okay, this is we call it ojikin sandwich. This is
Oh, yes.
a fried oyster mushrooms, and it's one of the best sandwiches we ever created. All right.
It's good. I've been wanting to try
Okay,
it.
I hope you don't mind if I touch it with my hands.
As long as you don't touch it with your nose.
All right.
That's
all
good.
right, that's good. And Cara, before you came in, we were talking about how disconnected in our mind is glamour and
Veganism.
and
Well, that's part of it, but it's more like about being authentic and being who you are, and then also putting it into a place where you go to another place who you're. You know, glamour is an extension of who you are, but there's
and
a dichotomy.
empowerment and then compassion is on my spectrum was on another side of it, and you kind of encapsulated and incorporated for us this combination of those three things: empowerment, glamour, and compassion. So tell us how it's all got together in your head.
You know, I think it just goes back to, like I said, being who you really are. Like, I don't hold anything back. I put everything out there. Like, whatever I'm thinking, working on, creating, whatever I'm talking about, I share it. So it's not calculated. It's not like a strategic thing. You know, and I think we talk a lot about branding and personal branding in the world of business. And I'm like, it's just being who you are without, you know, holding back and not without fear. So I think that's how it comes out. It's just like whatever I'm into. It's not really this like thought out plan.
And it's more fun that way, right? It's like, wait a second, I don't have to really work at it. I just have to be it.
And any time that I've tried to listen to someone else or do what somebody else said that I should do or took a suggestion, like most of the time it's not been something that I enjoyed doing, not something that I felt was successful or that felt good to me. So it's like you always have to listen to your gut.
Yeah, but also I would think that there has to be some mentorship as well, where some people will give you advice and then you can make the decision from there. What about mentors in your life?
So I've never had an actual mentor. Like I've never had that relationship that was like a clear-cut like mentor-mentee relationship. But I always say that I have secret mentors, and they're just people that I stalk on the internet.
Yeah, I actually read a couple.
People whose books I read. You know, you don't need to have somebody like sitting down with you for coffee once a month to give you advice. Like I think you can sort of look around and see what inspires you and take pieces from that.
How about you, Vlad, with the mentorship and other people in the food world?
So should I mention you or no?
No, never.
Okay.
Because I want you to tell the truth. We were talking about authenticity.
Like for me, it was a big transformation personally, how I act in a restaurant. I always had this crazy idea that I shouldn't bother people. Okay, and I should
See
just,
how that worked out for you.
yeah, it's just that I should just stay back and just let people enjoy the food, and they have different agenda to come to the restaurant, and they just want to enjoy the experience. And the more and more I've been in this field, I understood how important for me to have this connection with people. If they don't want to talk or they're busy, they'll let me know. But if they want to have a conversation, if they want to have a history, and if they want to know what we do, I'll be available at all.
And I was just going to say, I love that you do that, because a lot of people dine by themselves. I go out to eat a lot by myself. So it's nice to know that you're walking in and it feels welcoming. And you know, I've seen a lot of people here alone, and you just pop over to the table.
Yeah, and I don't even know who needs more.
Yeah,
like
right.
I need to talk to them, or they need to talk to me.
But that's the way it is.
Hopefully,
I mean,
it's mutual.
No, it is mutual. That's what I get from reading the stuff I read for you online. And then the fact that you become an influencer, and how does that work with your ego? How do you keep your ego in check, knowing that you influence people? And so my guess is that you don't think about being an influencer. You just are one, but it has to creep in there, because we all have some ego.
I mean, I always tell people to just do what makes them feel good, and I think that's my style of like working with people and writing and influencing them. It's like I want to empower you to do what works best for you. I don't want you to copy me or do what you think I'm doing or what I would like to do. I'm very flattered, of course, when people tell me that I've inspired them. It's like, it never gets old to hear that. It's, you know, the best feeling in the world to know that you could help someone on their path in life. But I don't really think of myself as an influencer.
Yeah, that's what I was.
You know, it's
like,
interesting. I don't
kind
like
of
the
disagree,
term.
right? I disagree.
Yeah.
Because she does so much of concrete work, and she's on a constant path of connecting and giving out a lot of.
I think of the two of you, they're very similar in that way, you know. And
I think it's a byproduct of the work you put out in the world.
that's the key. It's like being rich or famous. When you're younger, you hear that. Those are just byproducts. The work is really the beauty, the love. I mean, I love my work. I wake up every day going, you know, I'm going to do what I love today.
It's a blessing.
Yeah,
And
I
you go to Organic Grill, right?
I go to Organic Grill. I do. I'm around the corner, and so it's easy. I trip out of bed and I'm in the Organic Grill.
And if he goes to the laundry, he still goes to Organic
I do.
Grill.
I do. I
Laundry is
stop
right
and drop
next
the
door.
laundry off right next over here.
Cara, from our first interview,
I'm gonna eat. You guys talk.
yeah, from our first interview, you were talking about how long it took you to prepare to be where you are, and I have a impression of you now that you're moving really fast. Like you're very confident in what you do. You're not aggressive, but you are so efficient, I would say. Would you compare you, person who started her first book and person who is writing her ninth book now, that you are more efficient, more advanced, more experienced, you know what to do? Because you definitely project this.
Thank you. More efficient? No, I think I've always been like this. I just think more people are noticing now. I've always hustled. You can ask my husband. He always says it, you know, like you just do whatever you want to do, you know, and I don't think about it too much. And I think that's been the biggest, like, I guess what has helped me get to where I am and where I continue to go is that I don't really let myself get paralyzed by fear. I just move through it quicker. Definitely more experience, because I think the more you do things, the more you know, like, what to look out for, what the possible pitfalls are. But I've always been this way. Like, I've just always just decided that I want to do something and I just make it happen. And a lot of those things never turn into anything. You know, a lot of people don't see a lot of those things, you know, out in the world, like the things that I've actually done and maybe put to the side or just decided weren't worth pursuing.
Because that's the journey. It's like, well, I want to, you know, someone's at the door. How do I answer it? You just go to the door and open it up. Yeah. But no, people, if you did a film of it, you wouldn't show the walking to the door. You show the person at the door. It's the same thing in our lives. There's parts of it that the world doesn't see, and they don't need to see.
Yeah.
They just, especially when you're influencing other people. Go ahead, Lauren.
And I loved what you said on our previous interview when you said that when nobody knows you, you can do so many things without friction, and nobody tests you, nobody examines what you do. You just do your art. That's amazing.
It's so true. Yeah, and then the more eyes on you, the more opinions there are going to be, and you have to realize that someone's opinion of you doesn't have to become your reality.
Does it bother
Right.
you now, like when you got your notoriety and recognition and reputation? Does it bother you that people judge you on certain steps? Or
It depends on my mood. Some days I'm like, oh, and then, but when it does trigger me, I ask myself, like, what's going on? Like, why is this bothering me all of a sudden? And it's usually because I'm just paying attention to it.
And I feel that triggering isn't a horrible word. Sometimes triggering puts you in a place that goes, okay, now I'm ready, because why did that trigger me? How can I evolve from that moment, as opposed to taking everything that happens to us in a negative way, turn it into a positive.
It's all about self-awareness, and I think I just try to be better every day than I was the day before. And I think that's.
And even if you take a couple of steps backwards again, that's okay, because sometimes you need to take a breath before you take the next step.
And everything leads you to where you're going next. I really believe that. I don't have any regrets about anything. I think that you're just, whatever is happening in your life is building you and shaping you into the person you're going to be tomorrow.
and I want to share my impression of you.
He does impressions now.
Yeah.
Oh no!
But
No.
what really made me take a mental note of what you do that I don't do. Like I can't stop sometimes. Like I'm thinking about things to do, opportunities, some connections that I can make, and often I text you about some idea, and you would answer to me, I'm with a friend, sorry, I can't answer today. Okay, or I'm taking care of, I remember someone was sick and you were helping them out. I said, I'm going to be fully available for this person, I can answer today. I was like, wow, this is such an important message for relationships, that you're fully devoted to this person when you're with them, or you had a friend coming over and you were in a restaurant and said, I can't talk today, I want to be with this person. I was like, man, I should stop doing this.
Yeah, and what I take out of that is also you most likely do that for yourself as well. You have to, people want from you, and you have to take the time to empower
But do you
yourself.
see that it improved your relationship once you start doing this?
I mean, you just need to create boundaries, because, the more people you connect with, like you said, the more people are going to reach out and want to talk to you. And I think I have to be able to separate it so that I can give you my full attention when you talk to me, or, when somebody calls me and needs me, it's like I have to be able to know, like, where to separate that energy.
Have you learned how to be there when you're not your 100% for others?
Yeah, I do my best. That's it. I just do my best. Okay,
Food is
Yeah.
good.
we're eating.
Yeah, we're trying to work this out where we can eat and talk, and we're trying to figure that out. But it's hard because then you spit food out, and then one of the questions I asked at the beginning, I wanted to know, because we met the last time, and you one of the most amazing people I've met in a long time, and then got interested in it. Where have you gone? Well, that's why I asked about from the last book to the next book. What has changed since we've met in that part of your life that now is in this new book?
I think I'm finally getting to the point where I don't think I need anything else to do what I want to do. Like, there was still a part of me, even with this book recently, where I was like, okay, I need to start pitching the press, and I need to, even though I'm going to do it on my own, but I still
Right.
need to do it. I need to, make these things happen. And then I was like, no, I don't. I actually
Yeah,
don't.
we can help you out. We can do your book reading.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We'd be thrilled to do that for you.
Yeah, I just think I've gained more confidence, and I think I just continue to get there. I'm definitely not perfect. I don't have it all figured out. But I think every situation, like I was saying, leads you to the next. Because there's been a lot of no's along the way with this new book too, I've heard a lot of things about, like, this is over, the market's saturated, this conversation's tired. And I'm like, conversation about women being empowered will never be over to me until women feel completely equal and respected in this world. And so I still have a lot of work to do.
What do you think about the cancel cultures that affect you at all? I know.
Annoying. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
I just think everybody has a voice now because of the internet,
Right.
and we don't have to listen to all those voices. I think everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I think it's easy to cancel someone when you're not in the ring putting yourself out there and trying things.
Yeah, I think about that with, like, for my mom, for instance, who's one of the greatest people that's ever lived in my life. She was just strong and funny, and had her own opinions. And, when she was younger, her influences were sort of racist and from her mother and her father. And she evolved. And I celebrate her evolving. I learned from her how she evolved as a human and became not that person. And in our society now, you get shit for stuff you did 20 years ago or 10 years ago. And what good is that? Why find the negative and then put a light on that and shine it and do that? And I think that do the people that come to you, do they talk about things in their life from the past?
Oh, everybody's stuck on the past. So many people are stuck on the past. And I tell them, like, don't serve your past, serve your future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So put your energy towards becoming more evolved and learning from mistakes or things that you might have done wrong. And I think we have to let go of that and like have some forgiveness for ourselves and for whatever situation we found ourselves in. And I think like knowing that every step was meant to shape you into who you are. So your
Yes.
mother, for example, I mean, all of our parents, I think, came from a different time. And, we've all evolved and learned to be more compassionate. So as long as that person is making steps towards being better and being more compassionate and
Yeah,
understanding.
look, everybody is evolving. What you thought about yesterday is very different what you're thinking now. It doesn't mean that you're a different person.
Well, it comes even with food, right? When we talk about being plant-based. I
Right.
mean, I had an evolution with that. It took me a
Right.
long time.
Right.
So tell us about your podcast. I heard like 6 million people are listening to this. Tell us.
So I have a show called Style Your Mind,
All
and
right.
it's for women or men.
And why'd you call it that?
I think tying back to the glamour thing, it was like a little play on my love for fashion, and I always want.
I thought that this phase never passed. Right? You still-
I always want my industry, which is the personal development industry, to speak to everyone. Not just to speak to when I first thought of like self-help, which now they've changed that. If you go in Barnes and Noble, it's called personal development. I always
Really?
thought of like corny, like, infomercials or like, no offense to Tony Robbins, but like that group of people, like repeating affirmations in the mirror. And I was like, I don't identify with that, but I identify with wanting to be better and to grow. So I wanted to create a brand really for women who were like me, who loved, nice things and loved to go out and have a glass of champagne and talk about their goals and their dreams. So that's where the name really came from, just continuing on with the Champagne Diet
Style
brand.
your mind.
Yeah, and we have over
that's
6
a great
million
name.
unique downloads, and it's going well. I love
So
it.
how can we improve what we're doing? We can coming to you for advice and
There is
putting
no-
food in your
there
face
is nothing
for
better.
our
That's-
podcast. Like what?
I think this is amazing. The fact that you guys moved in this space, like I told you, I think really showcases Organic Grill
Right.
and lets people feel like what it's like to actually be here and eat the food and have a conversation with you and be in this community.
She was actually one of the first people encouraging us to do this, right?
Yeah.
She said yes right away. Lended her reputation and her fame to us, which we appreciate very much.
It is, but it's like you said, it's a community, and
is.
and
And
especially
it's
this neighborhood.
Yeah, and this neighborhood, of course, is
Yes.
I try to support all the small businesses because I feel like the East Village is the one neighborhood left that's like still so authentic to New York and to what it always was. It's changed obviously a lot, but
But
it
things
still
change.
remains very, it has a vibe to it, and I don't think a lot of neighborhoods do anymore.
And so does this restaurant. It has this vibe, and you and I are two separate people who met because of this place. And
Yeah, that's what I try to create a connection.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very important. It moves the movement longer
And it's a certain type of person that's attracted to this energy. Like Helix, I actually met her here
Oh,
only
yeah.
That's true.
one
That's
time,
true.
and we see each other all the time
Oh,
in the neighborhood.
nice.
We follow each other on Instagram now, and it's just so nice to
And
make new friends.
I went to a concert to see my friend's band perform, and I'm standing next to this person, and in the break in between bands, we started talking, and it was Helix. And we became great friends out of it. It's just, she lives right over here, I live right here, and it's just incredible. And I've been in this neighborhood since 1980, and the amount of friends that I've made here and still have, even if they've moved on, there's a real soul here. And again, this restaurant is the heart of that soul.
So what's your biggest struggle now? What you're working on?
What am I working on now? I've been actually struggling with trying to find out what's next. And
Ah.
I think we're in this culture where it's like, well, what are you doing next? What's your next goal? What's the next thing you want to hit? And I really just want to keep doing more of what I'm doing. And I want to just keep engaging in like projects that inspire me and doing things that excite me. I made some art over the weekend. I, took out a few canvases and started painting. Like, I just want to
Nice.
continue to just like follow like whatever my soul is telling me to do, whether that's writing a new book or we'll see.
How about let's eat some food. We have a very dear friend named Rachel Atchison. You all right there, buddy? Okay. When we come back, he won't be here, and you know what happened. So wish him farewell. Our friend Rachel Atchison, who's been working with Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, she brought to Meatless Mondays to the school system in New York City. She's just brilliant and an influencer and down to earth and vulnerable. And she's doing a segment that we call News You Can Use. And let's cut to it now. Rachel?
This is Rachel Atchison with OG Talk with News You Can Use. Today we're going to talk about Jonathan Safran Foer's newest book called We Are the Weather. It's a book that might be flying under the radar for some who are more into plant-based nutrition and veganism for the animal or the health benefits. This is about the environmental toll of animal agriculture on our environment. And it's a philosophical book in the sense of he knows that animal agriculture is a problem, and yet he is battling an internal battle of having these urges to eat meat, dairy, eggs. And what do you do with the health argument? You can feel better when you eat a plant-based diet. With the environmental argument, it's not as if Superstorm Sandy is not still coming. So how do we use behavioral science to really change people's diets? So We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer. He is a phenomenal author. He wrote Eating Animals several years ago. Extremely loud, incredibly close, everything is illuminated. So now it's time for you to read We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer. This is OG Talks, News You Can Use. Back to you guys.
Well, thank you very much, Rachel. Another great episode of News That You Can Use with our friend Rachel Atchison. We ate a little bit here. When you guys were listening to Rachel, we were talking about the incredible desserts here, and the carrot cake you guys love. Your husband's here; he's not going to be on camera, Ryan. But
I think he wants to have it this way, right?
Yeah, he's just dreaming about the cake. Last night I was watching an episode, and because I don't like to watch myself, I do something. It's done. Let other people. I want to go to the next thing. So it's like 2 a.m. and I'm watching this interview, and all I see behind is the cake. So I'm not even listening to the interview, and I'm thinking I'm going to break into the restaurant tonight at 2 a.m. to have some cake. Your book's coming out in November.
Yes, November 11th, 11/11.
11/11. Very nice.
Oh, wow.
And the name of the book again?
My son always look at the clock. He's like 11:11.
Yeah, that's good numbers. That's why I picked it. The benefit of self-publishing.
My number is is 1, 2, 3, 4. For some reason, 12:34. I see it all the time. Recently, I did a theater, and I said, "How many seats you have?" And they go, "Well, we have 1,234 seats." It just comes up all the time. I don't know what it means.
It's a good thing, though. I think
it means you like cheesecake.
Yes.
That's what I think 12:34 means. So the book coming out 11/11.
Yeah, it's called Girl on Fire, and you can get it on Amazon and hopefully some bookstores in the East Village. I'm going to be knocking on some doors soon.
Yes.
Try to get them to
like
pick it up.
book signing, yeah.
Yeah, we really would love to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things that we're trying to develop through OG Talk. We're going to start a comedy show around the corner at Theater 80, bring in a bunch of different people, our friends Tish and Snooki. We're going to do a book reading with them as well. And we're just so happy that you're here. I'm happy that you're here.
I was thinking yesterday, it was such a hard day. It was a great day, but really hard. I was like, what is the highlight of tomorrow day? I was like,
other than Eddie
coming.
eating in
Wow,
front of you.
It's
Yeah,
going
no,
to be
we're-
This is
so
the highlight
cool.
of my day, too, so
Well,
thank
that's
you guys.
good. Folks at home, what's the website if they want the podcast?
Yeah, so they can go to thechampagnediet.com. I'm on Instagram at The Champagne Diet, and the podcast is called Style Your Mind.
Style Your Mind. And we're OG Talk NYC. Take a look at all of our videos and
YouTube, yeah.
on YouTube. And if you just want to, if you're in the car and you don't want to look at video while you're driving, you can listen to on every podcast platform.
And
OG
you can
Talk
download,
NYC.
rate, subscribe. Please do help
Yeah,
us.
we need you to review it. That'll help us. Again, OG Talk NYC. Cara Alwill Leyba. We're so happy that you're here again. And now
Thank you very
we'll
much.
chow and we'll feed Ryan. I'm saying we, like I own the place. I'm just in the middle.
Kinda
and-
do.
Yeah. And
You
it's-
kind of do. Remember the
It's a
papers I
mentality.
signed?
Yeah, that's great. Well, have a wonderful day, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.